I just have the unique pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this evening. And I've known him a long time, and I was thinking, what I would say about him, and the list got really, really, really long, and so I decided less is more, and I'm just going to give you a few really brief words about the importance of the things that Dr. Becker does for the world. I could say for the veterinary community, for people that own pets, for pets that don't own people, but really for the good of the world. Dr. Becker, who is widely known as America's veterinarian, has spent his life working towards better health for pets and the people who love them. Dr. Becker is a tireless champion for pets, from working with shelters and rescues, to influencing the veterinary market, to educating the public about ways to improve our pets' lives and well-being. For more than 16 years, Dr. Becker has been the popular veterinary contributor on Good Morning America, and he's also on the board of directors and a board member of the Medical Advisory Board for Dr. Oz. And when he's not busy doing all of that, he's written 22 books, which have sold more than 7 million copies. We had a conversation earlier when he came in. I just want to share this one little vignette. I have known Dr. Becker for now 13 years, and he and I both distinctly remember when we met, and it was on a riverboat in Amsterdam on the way to a dinner at a veterinary conference, and we struck up a friendship on that boat ride. But the story that I want to tell you is a little different, and he's going to get embarrassed and laugh when I start to tell this, and he'll know where I'm going. But early in this decade, shortly after 9/11, when there was a great deal of sensitivity to packages that big companies received with anthrax and after the 9/11 attacks, in particular, New York companies were really very careful about looking at the packages and the envelopes that came to the business. And I worked at a big company right down the road, and I got a call one day that there was a package with my name on it that looked very suspect. And they decided after quite a bit of deliberation, which probably wasn't the right thing to do if there was cause for concern about the package, but nonetheless called the authorities, the fire department, the FBI, I'm not sure who they called at the time, but really called out the authorities, who proceeded to come to the building. And they looked at the package, and the package had what they went on to tell me, several of the telltale signs of a suspect package. The address was written in magic marker, handwritten, had some incorrect information on it, the wrong address or the wrong zip code. The package was an old cardboard box that was lumpy. It was tied together with a piece of string, all of which caused a great deal of concern for the authorities, at which time there were dozens of them, including myself and a few others. And so they took the bold move to decide they were going to open the package. And they lifted off the cover, and there was a piece of paper on top, and they opened it up, and it said, "Dear Steve, hope you enjoy these Idaho potatoes from Dr. Marty Becker." Nobody was happy with me at the moment, okay, after especially the guy who thought he was risking his life to open the box. Marty comes from Idaho, as some of you might know, and no surprise. Now, I tell the story for two reasons. One is it's kind of humorous in retrospect. I can tell it 10 years later. The other is because inadvertently, I'm sure, Marty forgot to send me potatoes last year, and I'm hoping this sort of instigates the strong desire to send another box, because they were really, really good, Marty, so thank you for that. So look, with that, I'm pleased to not only know Dr. Becker, but really call him a friend of good and long standing, and with that, please join me in welcoming him to the stand to talk. Thank you.
It's really nice to have everybody here. I want to take you back on a little journey, back to prehistoric times. So I want you to imagine up here is a prehistoric campfire, and man and woman and child around this campfire, and over here in the periphery, just off in the distance, we see these dogs. And all of a sudden, one of them became very friendly, much more than the others, and came up there and got close enough to smell that and thought, you know what, I'm going to go in there and get some roast beast. And it came up there, and I don't know what it was, but in that instant, when it came up close enough, man or woman, I'm not sure which one did it, reached down for that first time and petted it on the head. And in that instant, that human-animal bond had life breathed into it. And I can just see that tail wagging for the very first time. Now, Teresa and I just got back. My wife Teresa's in the front here. That's what you have to do if you're married. See, they got to sit in the front row. We just got back from a trip to Southeast Asia and Asia. So we were down in Vietnam and Philippines and Cambodia and India. And you forget what it's like when pets live on the periphery of mankind without affection. So these pets, their tails don't wag. They don't show the play bouts. They show none of the behaviors we're so used to. So, I would like to think back when that prehistoric campfire, when we ignited that bond for the first time, that it was global. But you realize that pets living here in the United States and North America and other places have it pretty darn good. Because they not only don't sleep on the periphery, they don't even sleep in the, they sleep on our beds, don't they? So let's fast forward now I want to go back to about the early 60s, when I'm 6 or 7 years old. And I still remember the first time we invited our dog inside the house. So Luke, the Labrador Retriever, had a utilitarian role. He herded cattle. I don't know if any of you come from rural backgrounds, but he herded cattle. He was a guard dog, so if somebody came, he would alert by barking to people so that they would know somebody was there. And so I remember there was a big storm in southern Idaho. It was around February, about the time the Beatles came out, about 63, right? So this huge snowstorm, this blizzard, and I asked Dad, I says, can we bring him inside tonight in the house? So he lived out in an old calving shed with a fence around it, and he had a great big chain on his collar because he was still intact. He'd like to go visit his girlfriend about a mile away. So here he was on this big chain in this doghouse, and in Idaho, we'd put straw bales around it in the wintertime so he'd stay warm. In the summertime, he'd dig a big hole. Remember the dog we saw there in India that dug a big hole in this park to get down to cool earth to keep himself cold? And Dad said, oh, he's a Labrador. He's telling everybody he's from Labrador, Canada. He's made for this kind of weather. Well, he resisted. I persisted. And finally, he said, all right, tonight only, on the linoleum, that's vinyl flooring for anybody young. And he said, and then once the storm stops, he's got to go back outside. So fair enough. So brought Luke onto the linoleum on the porch, and it was like he was ice skating, here at either Central Park or over here at what is the place over here? Rockefeller Center for the first time. He's like, whoa, he's on ice skates, like, what the heck is this surface? And he actually went down on the ground, and the infantry crawled over, and there was an opening into our kitchen. And I remember he stuck his head in, we looked one way, and he looked the other way. And he's like, man, this is nice in here, So he's been in a calving shed, the whole time, and he's thinking, this is nice. So he proceeded to go on in, and Dad was there, and he did the old lab leaner thing. I don't know if any of you have retrievers where they do the leaning thing where they're way over on you, And Dad's like, oh, my God, look at him, And all of a sudden, his old tail. You could hear it hitting there on the side of the chair, Pretty soon, he got up on the couch. And it's like, oh my God, he was just so happy. His little tail, boom, 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 it's really going. Well, literally and figuratively, he never left the house. I mean, he still was a guard dog. He still retrieved ducks. He guarded our stuff. He herded cattle. But you know what? He became an indoor-outdoor dog, and he slept in the house the rest of his life. And many of you remember that migration of biblical proportions when these pets moved from the barnyard to the backyard to the back door to the bedroom. And if you didn't grow up rural like I did, just think of backyard to back door to bedroom, or from outside to inside to underneath the covers. And did any of you grow up rural? We used to have party lines. And do you remember party lines? Anybody here have a party line? It sounds unbelievable today in this technology, but 3, 4, or 5 people on one phone. And you remember that distinct ring would come and you'd race to the phone. My God, somebody's trying to communicate with the Beckers. And you'd run up there and answer it real quick. There was none of that stuff like today. Oh God, who is it? You're so excited somebody was calling. And I remember people used to visit. I don't know if any of you remember your parents, somebody would just come by to just visit for any reason or no reason at any time without warning. And you could hear them coming down this gravel road. All of a sudden you'd hear the tires make a sound. They'd pull into the driveway, and oh my God, who is it? We'd look outside and so excited. Well, it's not quite that way anymore, is it? Somebody pulls into your driveway. Oh God, who is it? Let's hide and pretend nobody's home, right? So what happened is with people, we had a lot of disappointments, and there was posturing for personal gain, hidden performances, hidden agendas, and all of a sudden these pets moved from outside to inside, and we thought, what are we getting here? Unconditional love, limitless affection, to die for loyalty, hidden agendas, duplicity, posturing for personal gain, unconditional love, limitless affection, to die for loyalty. I think I'll go over here. So, incredibly, these pets really moved into our hearts and homes en masse. And now, there's 66%, it depends on the statistics of American households have dogs or cats. 90% of the names are human names. You know, we really just look at this dog right sitting in your lap. I mean, it's a kid. We call themselves our pet's mom and dad. They are our kids. And the lucky thing is, you know, one of the books I've written is The Healing Power of Pets. And by having that close, intimate relationship with a pet, we benefit from the healing power of pets. So you don't get the healing power of pets by seeing a dog pass by. You don't get it from even looking out the window into the van there and seeing the kitten in there standing there. You have to have close physical contact with them. So when they sit by you and you, you know, rhythmically stroke them, within just 2 to 3 minutes, there's this massive biochemical release. So you get an increase in serotonin. You know, if you take Zoloft or Prozac, you're always after antidepressants, increase serotonin. You get an increase in dopamine, the kind of runner's high thing. You get a decrease in cortisol, which is the stress hormone that we always think about that causes stress. You actually get a chemical called phenylethylamine, which is that active ingredient in chocolate. So when you take that chocolate and you get that kind of feeling. So it's really like, and also oxytocin. You know what happens when a mother nurses a baby, the hug hormone. So it's almost like a mother nursing a baby eating a chocolate bar, you know, is what you get. And it's not a parasitic relationship. The dog gets it exactly the same time. So if you think about this, you know, we were over in India where you would see camels pulling cars and horses pulling carts and donkeys pulling carts and people pulling carts. And if you think about it, there hasn't been another domesticated species in about 5,000 years. So, but of all the domesticated species, only these dogs and cats have moved into our hearts and homes en masse. And there's a reason for it. There is a biochemical link that we have with them that, you know, we not only feel good, we're actually healthier. And they not only feel good, they're actually healthier as well. So it's kind of neat how that has happened. And it's amazing how, you know, talking about mostly people use human names for their pets anymore. I don't know how many of you have a kind of a crazy names, but as a veterinarian, one of the things I always like to ask people is, you know, what's the genesis of your pet's name? And I have a few favorites. I think of just lately as Brother, and there was 3 girls in the family, so they always wanted a brother. Yeah, and another dog named Riley. The dog came home from the shelter, flopped down. She started rubbing its belly. You know, normally she'd always rub her husband's feet, but now he's out of it now, so he's rubbing the dog's belly. And he said, man, this dog's going to live a life of Riley, so the dog's name is Riley. A cat that wasn't quite black enough to call midnight, so they called it 11:30. Thought that was pretty good. But we're so, I don't know how to put the word is for it. They're our kids. We call ourselves their pet's mom and dad. We want the very best for them. And sometimes, I'm glad Teresa's here because this is going to sound like if Teresa wasn't here, some of you would probably think I'm not telling the truth, but I got to tell you a story specifically because Teresa is here. Teresa had a surgery one time. So you got to think of our dogs. When I come home, I've flown almost 4 million miles on Delta. That's a lot of miles. And I have traveled twice. I was in 6 continents in 1 year. So I was the first ever speaker on a non-medical subject at the World Small Animal Veterinary Medical Association. And then for like 6 or 8 years, I went all over the world speaking to veterinarians. And I had a dean in veterinary school. Listen, I wanted to be a mixed animal practitioner. I grew up on a farm and ranch. So we had horses and cows and dairy cows and beef cows and chickens. And I wanted to be like, James Herriot, you know, really, in southern Idaho. But I went to school, and the very first day of class, Dr. Leo Bustad got up and started talking about the human-animal bond. He talked about being befriended by an animal in a concentration camp in World War II and how it saved him. And at the end of the talk, he talked about the people-pet partnership that matched elderly people with homeless pets. I was in the back of the lecture hall at the start, arms folded, just like, teach me, train me, I've arrived, you know. And at the end, I'm up there, the first person volunteering to help with the people-pet partnership, and decided to be a companion animal practitioner. So it was transformative, this man. And so I always thought about the human-animal bond and the healing power of pets, because he was not only America's James Herriot, he was really the first person to discover that human-animal health connection. So, you know, I just incubated in that. So I ran all over the world, so passionate talking about those subjects. And when I'd come home, I'd always call about the time I got to Bonners Ferry, which is 17 miles from our house, And I'd call Teresa's mom, and they live right on the highway, so they'd, when I'd call, they'd just sit out there and they'd wave, as I went by. She'd look out the window and wave to me, and so it was going to be about 20 minutes till I landed at our house, or got to our house. So I'd call Teresa up, and they'd know, okay, I have 20 minutes, he'll be here. And I can tell you on one finger how many times they came out to meet me. It wasn't, Teresa didn't bound across the yard. The kids weren't peeking out the window. But there was these dogs, and you know how your dogs can sense when you're coming home, before you wait for your home? They'd sit in this little circle of grass, and we had Baudet, the little fox terrier at the time, and he would boss everybody else around, the Labrador Retriever, Sirloin, everybody. They'd start to come toward the car, and he'd be back. He'd back, stay back. At my command, we go, and everybody's, oh shit. They're all sitting there like scared, and all of a sudden they come to this one spot in the road, and they'd erupt in this delighted frenzy of fur and head for my pickup. And it's funny, I remember Sirloin was fleet of foot. I mean, this dog is a field style kind of Labrador Retriever, but he would always stop to pick a bunch of stuff up to bring to me. So he's looking around like pine cone, bone, stick, whatever it is. So any of you have retrievers, they always got to bring you something, And so Scooter would get up in there the very first thing and, jump up my lap. And this is funny. One time, remember when Dr. Timothy Johnson was the medical expert on there before Dr. Richard Besser? And I remember one time with Charlie Gibson, we did a segment on not letting pets lick you in the mouth. And it was talking about zoonotic diseases. So I looked in the camera to 4 million people and said, it's really not a good idea to let your pets lick you in the mouth. That's 9 o'clock Eastern time. By 5:30 Pacific time, I come into the driveway, open the door, oh, Daddy missed you. And Scooter gets up and gives me a canine tonsil swab, right? So the adult equivalent of liar, liar, pants on fire, did exactly the opposite of what I told him to do on TV just a few hours before. But, when you come there, then, you got a big dog, you do the obligatory big dog beating, hitting him on the side. You's a good boy, you's a good boy, aren't you? You go inside, you had one dog that gets so excited to see it lose bladder control, which is kind of exciting, or another mammalian species that loves you that much. But you come inside, I'd say hi to Teresa and hug Teresa and say hi to the kids, and then go in the other room, change into some other clothes and come back out. There's no family around. There's those pets again. Like, oh my God, it's the second coming of Christ. I can't believe it. I missed you so much. I just saw him just 2 or 3 minutes ago, right? But it's that kind of crazy emotional, that loyal shadow, that kind of connectedness when you get out of a room and they follow you to the next room, right? Like, I just want to be with you. And so anyway, Teresa, this is where the funny part. Teresa and I have been married for 35 years. It looks like I robbed the cradle, but she's Mother Nature she's aging backwards, I think. It's funny, when we lived in southern Idaho, we always slept on one side of the bed, she slept on one side of the bed, and we moved up there 17 years ago, about halfway through our marriage, to northern Idaho, and the window was in a different spot. So we thought we'd switch it up, and it didn't work. Once you're in the one side of the bed, I think you're always in that side of the bed, don't you? It just didn't work, so we moved back to the other side of the bed, and as I got older, I still remember teasing Teresa's dad and my dad about having to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom when we travel together. I'd say, why do you guys get up in the middle of the night? Why don't you just hold it? And they said, you wait. I still remember that. You wait. That's all they said. So all of a sudden, I'm mid-40s, and it's like, hey, I can't hold anymore either. So, I'm getting up in the middle of the night. And if you have pets, you're always thinking to yourself, if I get up, that pet's going to steal my spot, right? So, because if you get up, so you're thinking, I'll just hold it, and then you get up, and I tend to snore pretty loud. So Teresa, when I get to snoring, she'll shake me, Marty, and so she'll wake me up and say, would you turn over and stuff? So I'll turn over. I still remember getting up, going to the bathroom. The dog immediately falls into the spot where I was at. So when I come back, I'm going to have a spot about this wide, right? And I look over there at Teresa. She's trapped on the one side of the bed by the dog. And I'm thinking, did she ever say, you bad dog, you get over here, and elbow them in the ribs or shake them? You're going to have to move, right? No, in the meantime, they're getting 18 hours of sleep a day, right? Teresa and I are both got chronic sleep deprivation. So, but I'll tell you how bad this gets. Teresa had a surgery to remove a growth on the back of her head. And the dermatologist was pet friendly. So we took our dog in there, and this little dog, he had a sweater on that says, "Caution, I can't hold my liquor." So they got to meet him, right? How many years ago was that, probably? How long ago was that? Yeah, little cutie. So he has this saying, "Caution, I can't hold my liquor," and he goes in there and he just jumps up and kisses everybody. So when it came time for the surgery, we're in the hospital and they call out there, "Teresa Becker." We come out of the crowded thing and we go to this spot and Teresa starts lecturing me. "Make sure you let Coyote out to go to the bathroom. Make sure you put him on his leash. Make sure you give him water." I'm yes. She's worried about this dog. So then they say, "Well, you better say goodbye to Teresa." So I kissed Teresa goodbye and good luck. And about 30 minutes later, maybe not even that, the nurse comes back out and she goes, "You're not going to believe what your wife said." They go, "She was anesthetized, given the pre-anesthetic. She started getting really woozy." And they said she looked over at one shoulder and made sure you weren't around there. And she leaned in and she goes, "Don't tell anybody, but I love that dog more than I love my family." And then she passed out. So I still remember Teresa waking up, and she's in intensive care, and we go in there. "I heard what you said." And Teresa's like, "Oh, I didn't say that. No, I didn't." And that nurse is, "Yeah, you did." So isn't it amazing what comes out of there? And we often joke at night because we'll sit together watching TV, and I hear Teresa talking to the dog throughout the day. "I love you, my little man. You're my little man. He's just a good boy." Then I'll see him sitting there and she's rubbing him with her foot while she's at the kitchen counter. Just rub him and rub him. He's rolled over, just his stomach exposed like Alibaba action, Then it's up there at night and one of them looks up there. I think I'll make a break, see if Teresa can go up there. So the dog creeps up there, gets up, and Teresa just hour after hour, she's just petting it. And then they stops. And there's either root or rakers. If you stop petting them, some of them grab your arm, right? Pull it back down, and others root you all the time till you keep petting them. They just don't let you stop. So, I like to have my feet tickled. Teresa likes to have her feet rubbed. So both of us, when we do it with each other, after about 5 minutes, we're like, "Oh God, I hope I'm getting close to the end." I just want to quit it so bad. And she wants to quit it so bad. But with pets, it's just like you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. But guess what? The healing power of pets, you get in this biochemical spa treatment. So there's something there, remember, increase in serotonin, increase in dopamine, increase in oxytocin, increase in phenylethylamine, a decrease in cortisol. So when you look at pets, when I say they just don't make us feel good, I mean, all of you have these pets that you think they're so special. If I just came to your house and met them, you'd realize why I'm so crazy about them. Am I right? I mean, these things, there's never... You never come home and find the dog's suitcase packed. You're not going to find a note from the cat, "I don't love you, I'm out of here." I mean, it's so predictable. They never look at their watch and go, "God, I've had a bad day." You go greet them. I'm just going to sit here today. Every time it's the same thing. You feel like, today I did a photo shoot in support of an animal welfare group that's trying to stop animal cruelty. And also in this counter next year is Tommy Lee from Motley Crue, In doing Good Morning America for 17 years, you see all these celebrities and people looking like, "Oh my God, there's George Clooney, there's Jennifer Aniston, there's these people." And I think, big deal. You come home and your pet's looking like, "Oh my God, there's Marty Becker. I can't believe it, And just the way they look at you like you're just a rock star, and the way they follow you from room to room, and that it's unconditional love, limitless affection, and to die for loyalty. I don't know how else to describe it. And in these chaotic times when you might lose your job, you might lose your 401k, you might lose your home, you're never going to lose the unconditional love of a pet. So I want to touch just briefly on a little bit about the healing power of pets, and I'd love to entertain any of your questions. There's two things, by the way, about pets. If I talk about saving money on pet care without shortchanging your pets, keep your pets at or near their ideal body weight. And that means you should be able to feel their ribs under a little light layer of fat. You should see a tucked abdomen that looks like a wasp, not a big cylinder from the side or hanging down in flaps. And when you're looking at them from above, you should see an indentation at the waist. So if you don't see those things, if it looks like a giant furry hot dog, that's probably not very good. And they don't have to lose all the weight to get most of the health benefits. For a lot of pets that are obese, if you just get them down, if they lose 10% of the excess weight, you get most of the benefit. Pardon me. The other thing is some kind of daily oral care. That's the number one reason people take pets to the vet is skin problems. And that's one of the great things about Halo is, you're using things that are good. You're not going to have the skin problems. Number two is with this kind of the number one thing that we diagnose as veterinarians is periodontal disease, day in and day out across the country, dental disease. So, our mouth would get pretty gross if we didn't brush every day or do some kind of daily oral care. And for dogs, it's not only it serves many functions. That's how they chew. That's how they pick things up and carry it. That's their front hands. It also holds their tongue in place, that lolling regulators, they pant. And you've seen dogs on the street where their tongue's hanging out the side where they've lost teeth, and so it just hangs out, and they can't effectively discharge heat. And you know what? We don't say hurts like a hangnail. The thing is hurts like a toothache. Periodontal disease hurts. So it's a lot of times I always look at a dog's lip and I think, if the owner saw that lesion that I see on their lip that was on the outside of the pet, they'd freak out. Like, oh my God, what is that? There's this burning lesion on their side, but somehow when it's covered up under the lip, it doesn't seem to get the same kind of attention. So it's extremely painful, and it slowly poisons the liver and kidneys. So if you do daily oral care on a pet, it's going to live 15% longer. If you keep a pet at or near its ideal body weight, it's going to live 15% longer. So we're talking 2 to 4 years, depending on the breed, of a happier, healthier, fuller life just by doing those two things. So remember, this is not an animal. When I started as a veterinarian here all these years ago, when you think about pets, it's been like 33 years, I guess, now as a veterinarian. You looked at the kind of things that affected pets, and we know a lot more now about what keeps them healthy and living a full life. So vaccinations current, parasite control, you're going to use something, and you never want to try to time it, start in the spring and end in the fall after the second killing frost, year-round parasite control, and some kind of daily oral care. So talk about the healing power of pets just real quick. We've always hear, when I've gone on tour and stuff, people always say, I hear they're using pets in nursing homes. Yes, they are. And I hear pets lower blood pressure. Yes, they do. But there's so much more than that. If you look at children, pets actually improve children's IQ scores. There's higher levels of empathy in children that have pets. There's a big new study out that shows that children that have pets, they're sick less often and they get better grades at school. And these are really good, well-designed studies. If you're elderly, like my mom she's 89, right? Teresa, your mom's 88. Both of them. My mom just finally had to give her little dog Sugar Babe up after all these years, and she found a really good home for it. And somebody that still takes a dog in to see her. She's about ready to go into hospice, but she still gets to see her dog, but doesn't have she couldn't keep her dog in this facility. But for elderly people, it blunts chronic pain. It works like the same way like acupressure. It also works in these kind of biofeedback loops. So they've actually done positron emission tomography studies and shows when you rhythmically pet a dog, it actually blocks the transmission of pain from the periphery to the central nervous system. It increases serotonin. It increases dopamine, so it fights depression. When we wrote the book about the only cancer we knew at the time that dogs could detect was melanomas. And so there was a study done by a guy in near Orlando, Florida, where melanomas are about as common as Mickey Mouse ears down there, that he had heard Paul Harvey. Is Paul Harvey still on? Remember the rest of the story? He died. So Paul Harvey talked about the rest of the story, and he talked about cadaver dogs that could go over a lake and sit in the bow and smell molecules of a body floating up to the surface. And he thought, I wonder if dogs could detect cancer. So he set about to test his thesis, and first he just used test tubes that had melanomas inside of them. And once they moved past that, they moved to people that had melanomas. They eventually moved to people, not only did they put like 100 bandages on, only 2 of them had a melanoma. Then they finally went to went to people where dermatologists looked at them under magnification and declared them to be melanoma free. And the dog on every so many patients would detect on a certain spot. They'd biopsy the skin, and guess what? There's a melanoma that wasn't detectable any other way, except for this dog's nose. So if you've been following the news, now we know dogs can detect bladder cancer, they can detect colorectal cancer, they can detect breast cancer, they can detect lung cancer, and it's all through these biochemical markers that are coming through a mammary duct, in the urine, in the feces. And it's pretty incredible. The studies done out of Japan, where most people are using a occult blood test to test for colorectal cancer. And it's about 5 times more sensitive, a dog smelling large numbers of stool samples for colorectal cancer. For prostate cancer, we do the PSA test, has a lot of false negatives. There just is no false negatives in these dogs that have been trained to detect them. So it's highly probable that there are going to be times when there's mass screenings done of thousands of people that have had samples taken, that a dog could go through and literally very inexpensively and extremely accurately tell the people that need further screening at risk. It also could be used in developing countries as well that don't have the same kind of technologies that we have. It's a funny thing about another book I wrote was Fitness Unleashed. And you know, with people, when you start out on an exercise program, it tends to start out big and then falter off, right? Teresa's a personal trainer. She knows this. People are all going to start. They're going to get together, and pretty soon, I don't feel good. The kid's got an appointment. I got to work late at work. So pretty soon they drop off one by one. And with dogs, they never have a better offer comes along. You know, when it's the appointed time to take that dog for a walk, if you don't get off the floor and out the door, they're going to make your life miserable. And I've even talked to guys that were former Marine Corps drill instructors, are just like, why don't this dog lay off me, you know, because they want to wait and have one more glass of iced tea, you know, but the dog's like, we got to get out there and get going, you know. And I can tell you this, I've actually seen hidden camera studies this, if I challenged you to be in your chair watching TV and get out of the chair the same way, whether you went to the bathroom, to the kitchen, or for a walk, that dog knows exactly if you're going to go to the kitchen and has a chance of getting a treat, or if you're going to go for a walk, because they're constantly studying your body language. It's impossible to fake these things out. And how in the heck they know, I don't know how many of you have pets that know when you're coming home way away. Like, we live 17 miles north of a town of 2,000 out in the middle of nowhere, and the dogs can hear some kind of harmonic in our cars. So it's a couple miles away when they alert that we're coming home. And then finally, when they're coming up, we live a mile on a gravel road, and there's a different harmonic that I can't hear. But it's just amazing. And some people have done tests where people come home a different route, a different car, a different time of day, and their pets know they're coming home. How that works, I don't know. So I just want to end by saying, you know, I've been a veterinarian here since, 33 years, I guess. A lifelong pet lover. I grew up in a place where our cows had names. I remember my dad scolding me. We had chickens, and I had to pick the eggs before it was time to go to breakfast. And if you ever had chickens, our neighbor has chickens, and he had a surgery right before we left on our big trip, so I was taking care of his chickens. And they'll sit in there, they'll sit on the eggs early in the morning, you know, and if you have chickens, or am I talking something just like Chinese? They'll sit on these eggs like, you know, there might be 4 or 5 eggs underneath them, but they're really protective. So if you reach in there, they're always pecking at you, you know, because they're trying to protect these eggs. But it's kind of cool. You'll kind of move them around, and they're all warm in there, you know. And you know, I don't think a lot of kids even know where these eggs come from. But I figured out, you know, we had about maybe 50 chickens in all these boxes, and to reach underneath each one of them was just taking too much time. So I remember I went in there and I just figured out if I go over here and just go, yeah, like this, and scare them, they'd all fly out, you know, and then it'd be real easy. I just reach there and pick all these things up. And I still remember one time doing that, and I came outside, and Dad taps me on the shoulder as I went to all that, scared the crap out of me. And he said, I saw what you did in there through the window. He goes, efficient, yes, but that's not the way we treat the animals. I mean, everything we had growing up is we treated them with a lot of love and respect, whether they were a chicken, a horse, a beef cow, a dairy cow. I mean, the dairy cows had names. They were, you know, lovingly treated. And you know, certainly you heard the story about our, you know, the way our dogs are treated at home. Oh my gosh. And I have, Teresa and I both have our favorites. I mean, we don't tell the dogs this, but I have a lab pit bull cross named Gracie. And she's the world's ideal breed, because you might chew your arm off, but she'll bring it back to you, you know. She's horrifically crippled. She was found on the running wild up in northern Idaho at 4 months of age, taken into a shelter, and she jumped up and down nonstop for 4 months. So she ruined the growth plates in her back. So she's kind of like Schmeagol. You know, she's real crouched down, like she's just really bad, and her legs have very little flexion in the back, you know. Her teeth look like she's a hockey player. I mean, there's just one tooth here and one tooth here, and part of one ear's gone, you know. But I love that dog. I mean, I'm always out there. I guess it was 2 days ago, right, when I was out there playing with her out in the yard and rubbing her stomach and telling her how beautiful she was. And oh my gosh, she's something else, you know. But you know, the pets that I see here in the audience today, I always say there's only one greatest pet in the world, and every family has that pet. And isn't that the way we feel? You just think, my gosh, this pet never disappoints. It's so much joy for them. You know, I only wish my human relationships could match up with the way these pets are. And the good thing is if we do the things that you should do, you know, like I said earlier, keep them at or near their ideal body weight. Do some kind of daily oral care. And I can talk to you about that if you want to ask me a question about how to do it, or want to ask me individually afterwards. Feed them a really high quality food like Halo. You know, you want something that you have that really not only nourishes their body, nourishes their skin, nourishes their brain. There's conditions like canine brain aging. It's like Alzheimer's, kind of semi like Alzheimer's in humans. A lot of people think, oh, my dog's just getting old, you know, it's not sleeping as well at night, it's awake more during the day, it's having accidents in the house, it acts confused. They think it's just getting old. No, it's not. It's canine brain aging. There's actually things that you can do to prevent it, or if they already have it, to treat it. So any questions? I'll just open it up to any questions you might have. I've been doing, the reason I got the name America's Veterinarian is from Dr. Oz. I've been doing Good Morning America now for 17 years, and I met Dr. Oz probably about 8 years ago on Good Morning America, became friends. And so just like Oprah started calling him America's doctor, he started calling me America's Veterinarian, so that's how that kind of got started. He has an overweight dog, which I love, to tell you this story. I don't think he'd shoot me if I told you this, but you know how everything's just perfect with him? You know, like I still remember when Teresa and I went to the show one time, and Teresa's out there in the audience, we're doing rehearsals, and we go back in the dressing room, and Teresa's like, oh my God, he's handsome. You know, Teresa's like swooning, oh my God, he's so handsome, you know? And he's just perfect. He just looks perfect, and everything's perfect, you know? Harry's got a big fat lab, you know, named Rosie. And I'm telling him, you got to get the weight off this dog, you know, because it's a black Labrador retriever. It's not black Labrador retriever. And now the dog's got hip problems, right? Well, guess what? You ever seen all these dogs walking down the street that are overweight or obese, and what do you see? You see them limping, right? It destroys their joints. So, you know, there's things we can do, you know, to help them live a happier, healthier, fuller life. Your dog, the owner's manual, and your cat, the owner's manual, you know, they sound a lot like Dr. Oz's books. That's because he allowed us to kind of use the same name. 4 of us worked 2 years on both those books. So 2 years for one book, 2 more years for the other book. And then The Healing Power of Pets is really the definitive work on the human-animal health connection. I wrote it with a former New York Times reporter, and it's still the #1 book out there for, you know, looking at how having this loving relationship with a pet is good for human health, happiness, and longevity. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
Be good, do good. The Halo, purely for pets philosophy. Pets are there for you in good times and bad. They make you laugh. They love you. They comfort you. They make you a better human being. Halo's mission is to provide honest information and wholesome products to better the lives of pets and the people who love them. Spot Stew was created from ingredients found right in your own kitchen. Ellen DeGeneres became a Halo customer and was so taken with the quality of Spot Stew. She said, "Because I think Halo is incredible, I decided to become part owner." Halo has evolved from 3 guiding principles: balance, nature, and love. But it's in the last principle, love, that drives our overall philosophy: be good, do good. Halo is the exclusive kibble sponsor of FreeKibble.com, an organization that helps feed tens of thousands of dogs and cats in animal shelters across the country. Mimi Osland, the founder of FreeKibble.com, declared, "Shelter pets deserve the best, and Halo is it." Halo now donates over 1.5 million meals of Spot Stew every year. And holiday kibble drops give shelter pets their best meal of the year and a better chance for their true holiday wish, a forever home. And if that isn't enough, shelter professionals say that the quality of Halo food increases adoption rates. Halo has also partnered with animal welfare and rescue groups, Pets for Patriots, Humane Society of the United States, ASPCA, Best Friends Animal Society, and hundreds of local shelters across America. Adopt-a-Shelter pet stamps. Halo partnered with the United States Postal Service to promote adopting pets through animal shelters. And to celebrate the occasion, Halo donated 1 million meals of Halo Spot Stew to celebrate the Adopt-a-Shelter pet stamps. The Halo Pet Foundation's mission is to improve the well-being of pets and the people who love them. They support pets in disaster areas and ASPCA campaigns to increase pet adoption. Halo, purely for pets, donates more than 5 times the national corporate average, and 100% of every dollar donated is granted to animal welfare and rescue groups. Halo is proud to sponsor the acclaimed PBS documentary Shelter Me with Katherine Heigl, as well as Episode 2 Shelter Me, Let's Go Home with Jane Lynch. The film showcased groups across the country are working to help homeless animals and get more pets adopted into wonderful, loving homes. Redbox donated 100% of the proceeds of Shelter Me rentals from 1 week to the Halo Pet Foundation to help homeless animals. Be good, do good. The Halo Purely for Pets philosophy. We believe in giving back. It's not just how we do business, it's how we run our lives.